Hello and welcome everyone to the American College CE webinar, Life Insurance and Retirement Planning. I'm Jamie Hopkins, a professor here at the American College and the director of the Center for Retirement Income. I'm going to be joined today by Curtis Cloak and Tom Hegna, really two titans of the industry in retirement and life insurance planning, both of whom I've known for a long period of time and often costs a lot of money to hear them speak. So we're very pleased to have them in here today. We'll go over a little bit more about their bios, who they are a little bit later. One of the first things I want to do is just get some of the housekeeping items out of the way. If you're listening to this recorded, there will be no CFP CE provided, but for those of you who had watched it live, there will be CE, but follow the instructions later on. Now, another thing here, we have up on the screen a RICP slide. I'm going to pitch two things because this is a college webinar here, and so I want to talk about two of our programs related to the topic here today. The RICP, which is the Retirement Income Certified Professional. It's a 3-course program all focused on retirement income planning. In fact, actually myself and both Curtis and Tom Hegna are in this program, so there you learn from the best in this. Another program I want to briefly mention, as it's really the core of the American College and why the American College came into existence 91 years ago. The CLU, the Chartered Life Underwriter. And that is really our program that is primarily focused on insurance, right? That was the true insurance professional from back in the day. And that's why the college developed to professionalize the life insurance industry. Now, that's still a fantastic program. So if you're in the insurance world or thinking about expanding your practice to that, I would definitely say consider the CLU. There are more than 100,000 CLU designations that have been awarded from the American College. That's just an amazing number. It's actually far more than the CFPs that have been awarded over the time period. Now, the CLU has been around a little bit longer, but a very important designation and education program. Now, real quickly, let's just go over the overview of what we're going to cover here today. As you can see right now, we're still in that introduction. I'm going to do a brief minute or two, just why talk about life insurance and retirement planning. Then Tom Hegna will come in second and talk about the foundation and importance of life insurance, really in any plan, and looking at the value of human life and human capital, the impact on interest rates changing, and how to have that deep dive and insurance conversation with clients and why marketing it and selling it and planning around it are so important. And then Curtis is going to be really our technical expert here today, talking about some of the advanced planning opportunities that are out there and about viewing life insurance actually as a retirement asset. So thinking about the cash value, thinking about the basis in the policy, 1035 exchanges, and even some of the things that changed under the tax code, under the last Tax Cut and Job Act that occurred, and how that might impact life insurance and retirement planning. Now, again, why talk life insurance and retirement? Well, one of the pieces here is life insurance has, for as long as insurance has been around, been a bedrock of secure financial situations. That if you want to feel secure, mitigating some of your risk of an early death is very valuable for your family, protecting them. And often this is about the family. Now, when we get to retirement, term policies, term life insurance are going to play less of an important role, but our permanent policies are going to be very important. Now, while a lot of people argue, right, you should buy term and invest the rest is what we see with permanent policies is that they can serve multiple functions and provide a lot of flexibility for somebody as they enter into retirement. So it becomes more than just about providing that death benefit, it becomes more than just providing that insurance. All of a sudden, permanent policies do that piece, but they also might contain some investment components or cash value buildup. Another thing that life insurance does is it creates diversification for us, both in the sense of a product, right, investments, and also a tax perspective. That taxation of life insurance benefits is actually very favorable to the individual, right? Death benefits tax-free. Cash value often can be accessed, right? Tax-free as long as it's not a MEC policy, modified endowment contract. But as long as we're staying out of those kind of side issues, very favorable tax treatment. So for those in high kind of tax brackets, life insurance can be a great way to put some money into a tax-deferred, essentially investment component or tax-free investment component, depending on how we use it. The other piece is we just have to realize that we take clients as they are many times, and that many clients have life insurance, they have Social Security, they have their house as a financial asset, and we have to be able to plan around those things. So we just need to understand the assets that clients might have. And when you look at Americans, over 70% of American households have some form of life insurance. But the reality is many of them are underinsured, right? We see only 37% of working mothers have life insurance. That's just not enough. Those people need better care. They need better insurance. The other very interesting thing here that I'll end with on kind of the overview here is most people overestimate the cost of life insurance, meaning that they're already going into the conversation thinking it's much more expensive than it actually is, where we see the kind of the average person believes life insurance actually costs 3 times what it actually costs. So that's a talking point, right? Do you understand what life insurance does, the differences in products, how it fits into a retirement plan, and then again, what does it cost? Now, the last piece here is just kind of framing our retirement piece is depending on what type of retirement income strategy you decide to use, life insurance could play a role in any of them and a slightly different role. For instance, if you're using a bucketing strategy and you're going to time segment your retirement into different time horizons, maybe the first 5 years, 10 years, and then the last 15, and set up your assets accordingly. Well, life insurance, especially the cash value, could serve as a kind of hedge in that first couple 5 years, or it could serve in that long-term bucket as part of the estate planning goals. Now, a flooring strategy, right? Life insurance might be less clear exactly how it's going to fill in there, but could still provide that cash value that's non-taxable, allowing you to have a lower taxable floor throughout retirement. Again, could still serve as kind of an end planning vehicle or even right to 1035 exchange to an annuity. And the last one with a systematic withdrawal strategy, obviously cash value of life insurance can serve as a hedge against market volatility as a buffer strategy. And that's really it from mine. And now I want to turn it over to our fantastic guest here and kind of world-renowned Tom Hegna, who's going to lead us into this life insurance basics and kind of planning conversation. So Tom, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you all for attending this webinar. I've written 5 books now on retirement. Every one of those books talks about life insurance, and there's some reasons why. So I'm going to, talk a little bit about a human life value. I'm going to share with you why people are so underinsured and they don't know it. I'm going to give you some ways to talk to your clients about life insurance, some questions, some strategies that you can use to talk to them. And then I'll get into the retirement stuff a little, and then I'm going to kick it over to Curtis. So let's get going. When I do classes and I ask the class, well, what is the value of a human life? A lot of people find that just almost repulsive. Well, you can't put a value on a human life. And yet every single day, the court system, insurance companies, attorneys, judges have to determine the value of a human life. And I think one of the best case studies of human life value is the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. And if you think about it, when those 2 twin towers came down, there were all kinds of people in the building. There were CEOs, there were hedge fund managers, there were firefighters, there were policemen, there were busboys, there were waiters, waitresses. How do you determine the human life value of a busboy versus the human life value of a CEO? Well, that's what they had to do. And if you look at what they looked at several things. Number 1, they looked at your age. Number 2, they looked at your income. And number 3, how many children did you have? Now, isn't that interesting? Why would children matter? It's because children represent a huge financial obligation, a long-term financial obligation. And what you'll notice if you look at this chart is that the younger you are, the more money you made and the more children you had, the higher your human life value. So you literally could have had a waiter or a busboy who's got 5 kids, and their human life value was more than a CEO making $1 million a year. And so What this should tell you is that when you're on an appointment and there are children in that home, you must be relentless recommending life insurance, and you must be recommending larger policies, because it's the younger you are, the more children you have, and your income that really determines your human life value. If you want a simpler way of doing it, you can go to lifehappens.org. Again, that's lifehappens.org. They have a simple human life value calculator. You just plug in some information, push a button, and it will tell you what the client's human life value is. And that's a good way of, starting a conversation about life insurance. Now, I said that people are way underinsured, and they are. But people have no idea why they're so underinsured. And I would argue the reason people are so underinsured is because of the current low interest rate environment. If you remember, for many years, people used to say you need 7 times or 10 times your income in life insurance. Well, yeah, that's fine when we're in a 10% interest rate environment, but we're not. We're in a 1% interest rate environment. And so let me ask you a question. In a 1% interest rate environment, how much money would you need to invest to give you $50,000 a year of income? And the answer is $5 million. So now let me turn that around. How many people do you know that are making $50,000 a year are walking around with $5 million worth of life insurance? And how many of you that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 are walking around with $20, $30, $40 million worth of life insurance? Now you're going to say, well, Tom, that's ridiculous. Okay, what if you could get 5%? You can't, but what if you get a guaranteed 5% interest rate? How much money would you need to invest at 5% to give you $50,000 of income? The answer is $1 million. That is not ridiculous. So what I'm telling you is that every one of you and your clients should be carrying at least $1 million worth of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. Now, they're not all going to buy it, but you should be recommending it. Just say words like this. Our firm professionally recommends you carry at least $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Tom, that's still too much. Well, let me prove to you that it's not. As I said, I've written 5 books. My second book is a book by the name of Retirement Income Masters, Secrets of the Pros. And when I was writing the conclusion of this book, this story, I'm going to tell you a true story, and this story happened to me. I had left my house. I was gone for almost 2 weeks on the road. I come home for one day, a Saturday, and I was leaving on Sunday for another 6 days. So out of a 20-day stretch, I'm gone 19 out of 20 days. I had one day off Saturday. Well, a couple days before that Saturday, I got a call from my oldest son, and he said, Dad, I need a favor. My best friend's brother died 3 weeks ago, and his wife, the widow, got a big check, and she wants to meet with you on Saturday. I said, Ryan, what does she want to meet with me for? I don't do any more personal production. I'm a speaker author full time. And he said, well, that's why she wants to meet with you, because she knows you know this stuff and you're not going to try to sell her anything. I said, Ryan, I've been gone for 13 days. I'm leaving for 6 days. On Sunday, I have one day off. I'm not spending my one day driving around the valley looking for some woman who wants to talk to me. But I said, here's what I'll do. If they want to come to my house, I'll meet with them at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Well, the widow, the dad, and the brother show up at my house, sat around my dining room table. She was 42 years of age, 2 little girls, husband killed unexpectedly in an accident, a $1 million death claim. After I gave her my condolences, she said these words to me. She said, Tom, I never thought I'd be a millionaire. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to build a custom house on a lake with a place for my daughters to play. I don't want a cookie cutter house. I want a custom house on a lake, place for my daughters to play. I literally had to stop her mid-sentence, say, ma'am, time out. We're not talking any custom houses today. Do you realize you only have $1 million? In a 1% interest rate environment, that's $10,000 a year. I'm here to see how you and your daughters can possibly survive on $10,000 a year. Now, maybe you could get 20,000, maybe 25, 30, 35,000, but every expert I know says you can't take out 4%. 4% is going to fail, especially this has to last for 50 or 60 years. So I said, max, and this is pushing it, you are a $38,000 a year woman. You're not a millionaire, and there's no custom houses I'm aware of at $38,000 a year. Well, she was shocked. She said, what are you talking about? My husband made $250,000 a year. We can't survive on $38,000 a year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how much life insurance should you have if you're making $250,000 a year? You should have at least $5 million of life insurance. We could have had a different conversation. Now, I'm telling you a true story about a widow in Arizona who thought she was a millionaire. But I'm wondering how many people on this call If something happened to you on the way home, would your family be in the exact same position? Look, my number one best life insurance sales idea is to get your own situation straight. Make sure you are carrying no less than $1 million for every $50,000 of income, and recommend that. And when people say, well, that sounds a little high to me, you tell them the story of the widow in Arizona who thought she was a millionaire, who is now stuck living a $38,000 a year life with her 2 little girls. You know, one of the other things, Jamie, is that I do a lot of work with property and casualty companies. And when I teach property and casualty agents how to transition from the property and casualty sale over to a life insurance sale. And one of the best techniques, and life insurance agents can do this as well, just simply take out your car keys and say, hey, what's on your car keys? Oh, your house keys on here. Guess what? We got your house covered. Your house burns down, we get you a new house. Oh, your car keys on here. You total your car. Guess what? We got a replacement policy for your car. We get you a new car. You know, you sink your boat. We're going to get you a new boat. You wreck your motorcycle. Guess what? You get a new motorcycle. So we've got all these things covered. But my question is, what about you? We need a full replacement policy on you. And that is a great way of talking about all the stuff that they got. We got replacement policies on them, but we need a full replacement policy on you. See, on the day you die, your spouse is going to ask 4 simple questions. And it's not going to be, do we have term life or whole life or variable life or index life? Do we have MetLife or New York Life or State Farm? Those are not going to be any of the questions. The 4 questions your spouse is going to ask: how much life insurance do we have? How long will the dollars last? Can we stay in our same house, and can the kids go to the same school? My question is, what do you want the answers to be? Now, one of the techniques you can do when you're talking to clients is to turn this around. And you say things like this. Now, you understand with your situation right now, if something were to happen to you, your family would not be able to stay in the same house, right? You understand that. And your kids would certainly not be able to go to that school. So I guess my question is, what's your plan? So you can take these questions and then turn them around and try to get into the client's head on what they're thinking, on why they're so underinsured for life insurance. Now, you know, I talk a lot that this is no longer a knowledge business. Everybody thinks it's a knowledge business. This is not a knowledge business. You give me an iPad, the internet in 15 minutes, I can figure out anything I need to figure out. This is now a words business. This is a language business. This is a questions business. And this is a stories business. You want to increase your production? Work on your words, work on your language, work on your questions, and work on your stories. What I want to do in this section is share with you why questions are so important. Number one, asking questions avoids arguments. Have you ever had an argument with a client? I can promise you it doesn't end well. And it happened because either you or they stated a very strong opinion, and then that was totally opposite of what the other person thought. So instead of stating your opinions, when you're with clients, ask questions of what they think. Asking questions avoids you talking too much. You know, I was a manager too. And one of the things I did with new agents, I went on appointments with them and I said, okay, you've watched me do it 3 or 4 times. Now it's your turn. And you know what new agents do? They talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. I want to kick them under the table, say, shut up, you stop talking. Telling is not selling. Listening is selling. Asking is selling. Asking questions helps a person recognize what they really want. It crystallizes their thinking. It becomes their idea. It helps you get to the key issues faster. And when you ask questions, you're showing that you respect their opinions. And guess what? They're going to respect your opinions as well. So let me give you some life insurance questions. Hey, tell me what you know about life insurance and how it works. You know, instead of just going into your presentation, if you would ask some of these questions, you're going to get a feeling for how they think about life insurance. What is your philosophy about life insurance? Where did you learn about life insurance? My daddy, he's a Mass Mutual agent for 45 years. Wouldn't you want to know that before you make your presentation? Hey, where does life insurance fit in your overall plan? Oh, I went to Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. He says I'm going to be rich when I'm 65, so I only need it when the kids are little. Wouldn't you want to know that before you make your presentation? Hey, what are your thoughts around term life insurance? I love it. I hate it. You'd want to know that before you made your presentation. What are your thoughts about cash value life insurance? Hey, You told me you wanted a $250,000 term policy. How did you determine how much life insurance you need? You just want to learn what they're thinking in their head before you make your presentation. You're going to make a much better presentation if you would ask some questions ahead of time. Now, here's some really deep life insurance questions. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, how much life insurance would you buy today? Oh, as much as I could get. Well, great. Let's apply for that. We can ask for as big a policy as you will underwrite for. If life insurance was free, how much would you want? Oh, as much as I could get. Great. Let's apply for that. If you were hit by a drunk driver, or for you millennials, if you were hit by a texting driver, how much would your family sue for? You just said you wanted a $250,000 term policy. I can promise you, if you were killed by a drunk driver, your family would not sue for $250,000. They'd sue for $5 million. You know why? Because that's what your human life value is. We've got to talk to them about their human life value. Now, I'm not here to plug anybody's books. If I was, I'd be plugging all my books. But there is a book out there by Marv Feldman that I think will really help you, and it's called Man on a Mission. And the thing I like about that book is it's loaded with questions. If you want some great life insurance questions, just pick up Marv's book. I mean, between Marv and his father, Ben Feldman, I mean, you got the Feldman family, and they've got secrets that no other family has on selling life insurance. And so I would definitely want to pick up a copy of his book. I think it will help you. Now, let me share with you where I think life insurance fits in the retirement equation. And let me use me as an example, okay? So one of the reasons why I think so many people are not having a good retirement, why they're miserable in retirement, is in the back of their minds, many people think they got to leave some money to their kids. And so they don't take that cruise, they don't take that trip, they live a diminished retirement because they're trying to leave money to their kids. Well, one of the things, if you've ever been to one of my seminars, I say, don't leave your kids any money. I want you to spend all of your money. I want you to leave them life insurance. And so I use me as an example. We got 4 kids. So one day we were even sitting around saying, hey, how much should we leave the kids? And my wife says, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, if we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids as beneficiary, when we're both gone, they'll get $1 million tax free. That's $250,000 a piece tax free. I said, let's start there. So we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids as beneficiary. That policy is completely paid up. Do you know what the total cost of that $1 million policy was? $150,000. So now think about this. For 15 cents on the dollar, we get to transfer $1 million tax-free to our kids. Hey, who gets to spend all the rest of the money? We do. See, I want people to spend their money. I want them to leave their children life insurance because you can do that for pennies on the dollar. Now, I do a lot of seminars, and the more seminars I do, I found out so many people don't even like their kids anymore. So when I'm doing seminars, I go straight to the grandchildren because I know they still love them. And I say, don't leave your grandchildren any money either, and I'm going to show you why. We met with Annie. Annie said, Tom, I got 6 grandchildren. I got $100,000 down in the bank. It's not doing much. I don't care. I don't need this money. This is my just-in-case money. I've named my 6 grandchildren as beneficiary, and when I die, they each get a little over $16,000. Well, that's a nice grandma. But if that's her just-in-case money, why did she have it at the bank? Why didn't she put it in a life insurance policy? She can still get her money out. In fact, many of these senior policies now have full money-back guarantees. So in many of these cases, she get all her money out, but when she dies, each grandchild gets $36,000 instead of $16,000. I tell people all the time, don't leave your grandchildren any money. Leave them life insurance because you can leave them so much more. What about charitable giving? You know, many seniors want to leave money to their church or to their university. Here's 2 very generous people, Al and Helen. They tithe to their church. They give to their university. They saved up $50,000 that they want to give to charity. But when they started talking about it, they each want to give $50,000. Well, how do you give $100,000 to charity if all you got is $50,000? You put the $50,000 in a life insurance policy, it immediately creates $100,000 of gifting power or more. So you want to leave money to charity? Don't leave them money, leave them a life insurance because you can leave them so much more. And then what about protecting Social Security benefits? You know, here the husband gets $2,000 a month, the wife gets $1,000 a month. What happens when he dies? Well, she gets his. What happens to hers? It's gone. What happens? So her income goes down. What happens to her taxes? They were filing joint. Now she has to file single. Her taxes go up, her income goes down. What could have protected her from this situation? Life insurance. So what I tell people is if you've got any money that you want to go to your spouse, to your children, to your grandchildren, to charity, don't use money for that. Use life insurance because you can use the leverage, the pennies on the dollar that you can use with life insurance to go to those people instead of giving them money. And the last thing, Jamie, is this. You know, there's a new movie coming out, The Power of Zero, David McKnight's thing, and I would encourage the people to watch that movie. You're going to even be able to rent movie theaters and bring your people in there, and that would be a good opportunity to talk about some of the things that I've talked about that I know Curtis is going to talk about, the tax diversification and using tax-free income in retirement, because there is a tax train coming and this debt bomb that's coming. And life insurance, I think, will protect a lot of baby boomers if they would put some of that money into life insurance. So with that, I guess there's a code that's going to pop up here, Jamie, or I'll turn it back over to you. And there you go.
Yeah.
I think you want to read this to everybody.
Yes, and hopefully my audio is clear enough here. I know we're having a little issue with that earlier. So the first CFP CE attendance code is 665492. Again, 665492. There will be a second code later on, and you have to put that in the survey at the end of the broadcast. And up next then is going to be Curtis. Curtis, you should be able to take control at this point and take us on. So.
All right, Jamie, I think I advanced too quickly. So thanks for everybody on the call today. Tom, thank you for those great comments. Obviously, I've been in the industry and have enjoyed working with Jamie Wade Pfau and David Littell and developing the curriculum for the RACP. And we focused our segments on the retirement income floor. But today, we're going to talk about life insurance as part of the retirement plan. And so Tommy was talking really about the big picture, and I'm going to really bring it down and funnel down into focusing on specifics and how we utilize life insurance and retirement plan and how it's actually framed inside of our software. So we're going to talk about life insurance as a death benefit, which is unique and separate from life insurance as an asset class. They're two completely different strategies, and the products that we use for these two things may, in fact, be very different. Pension maximization or optimization. I know, back in the day we used pension max, and then compliance didn't allow the word pension max to be used. But from an internal standpoint, I think we all know what we mean when we talk about pension max or pension optimization funding. And then the last bullet that I'll cover is recovering premium basis from underfunded life policies with planned terminations and or replacements. There's a number of policies out there that were sold, current interest rate UL contracts specifically, that were sold back in the 80s and the early 90s when interest rates were really high, and there was a perception that they could put a little bit of money in those policies and that they would provide them a lifetime of death benefit guarantee. And now letters are coming out because interest rates have fallen and cost of insurance charges are going up, and now people are being told they have to pay large sums of premium dollars in order to keep those policies alive. And so they're either being just surrendered or replaced. And there is a large basis in a lot of those policies that are getting wasted. And that's a big retirement opportunity that I would like to talk about. So the first thing, and I'll have to apologize in reviewing these slides, as Jamie and I got on the call today, I realized the number of these slides kind of got moved around, some of the components, the animated components. So hopefully the slides will still be fairly intuitive, and we'll tell the story. So I want to talk about the traditional three classes of money discussion. The pre-tax bucket, which is all our pre-tax dollars of IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, and many others. And when money goes in, it's all tax deductible. And when money comes out, it's taxable. And then after-tax contributions of mutual funds, stocks, bonds, annuities, and there's a number of ways for which taxes could apply here. And then there's the after-tax contributions that then possibly, if done correctly, can be tax-free. And they're going to be life insurance, cash values, and Roth IRA accounts. Again, you can screw those things up, but if you do it right, they can be, in fact, tax-free. But the one I really want to talk about that relates to the discussion today is also not just life insurance as an asset class that can create income flow and cash distributions that are tax-free while the policy is still in place, but also want to talk about life insurance as a death benefit that, if done properly, can be messed up again. The death benefit will, in fact, be tax-free. And so these are additional components in that discussion about creating tax-free death benefits, tax-free cash flows as part of the class of money discussion. So life insurance is a death benefit. There's a number of reasons why we would do this, but I'm going to highlight a couple. Now, this is not all inclusive for retirement. It's what we have time in a short period of time to highlight today. One of the biggest opportunities I see for life insurance and retirement planning is that many clients have either no life insurance at all, they've cashed their policies in, or maybe they've got group life at work, but it's one-time salary, or maybe they plan to work for themselves for the last 5 years. And so the biggest risk that I see, the first risk that's obvious, is the worst time in the world for which one could die is that 10-year window before they actually retire. And there's a certain dollar amount. They're shoving money in the retirement plans as fast as they can, and they're trying to accumulate money because now they got the debt in the house paid off, they got the college for the kids paid off, and they're just trying to shovel money in for retirement. But there's a certain value that their retirement assets, along with other income resources such as Social Security and pensions, must achieve in order for them to be able to retire based on the movie of retirement they're playing in their mind. And the reality is it requires them to be able to work and make that kind of income flow above their lifestyle capacity while they're working that last 10 years to actually accomplish that pile of money. And so if one of them were to die, especially if one of them was the primary income earner, before getting to that 10th year before retirement, obviously chaos would occur for the surviving spouse. So the biggest opportunity, the most glowing opportunity I see in the retirement planning phase, and we do try to work with clients starting 15 years out from retirement, not just 30 days out from retirement, but it's talking to clients about it, and as a minimum buying some 10-year level term insurance, and these pretty big tickets if you're dealing with 50, 60-year-old clients. And of course, they have to still be federally insurable, but that would be a need for life insurance for the retirement plan, is to protect that pile in case one of them should die before getting to the end. That's number one. Number two, retirees to protect the surviving spouse. Now, Tom already mentioned this, mentioned Social Security, mentioned pensions, and really it's the loss of if they didn't pick the right one. And here's an issue I see in a significant way. A lot of couples where maybe one spouse made more money than the other, and they maybe are the dominant decision maker when it comes to financial matters, and they have a pension. I have seen too many times them irrevocably make a pension election that says, well, it's $200-300 more a month if I pick life only than if I pick joint and survivor. And so they'll either do a life only or they'll do 50% joint and survivor, when it's clear, given their ages and their health and the gender, that one's going to live longer than the other. And oftentimes it leaves that surviving spouse in the lurch. And generally speaking, that's going to be the woman. That's going to be the wife. And so this becomes a huge woman's issue. And this is really where we see the second issue, is taking life insurance and considering it. And by the way, when you do this in a holistic plan, you have a plan that frames the gaps that are applicable to the surviving spouse, it glows exactly where this life insurance should be positioned and placed for part of the plan. Thirdly is final expenses without market risk. You know, a lot of clients are not doing retirement income floors. Some of them are just doing traditional systematic withdrawal drawdown plans. What happens if right before the one spouse passes away, or what happens if even one of them are left and one of them passes away? They've left their assets in the market. Well, what happens about protecting final expenses for that surviving spouse? So she doesn't have to take money out of the market to pay for his death. There's a policy that kicks in at the right time. And of course, last expenses may or could be a meaningful issue. And oftentimes clients, when we're doing retirement planning, already have some life insurance they bought somewhere out there they're considering letting go of. And sometimes it's just managing the condition of those old policies to stay in force, where there is, in fact, a proven value for those policies into retirement. Number four is utilize life insurance to replace the survivor pension replacement, life only or joint survivor, which I did cover, and then the paid up, limited pay, secondary guarantee products are favored. So I'm going to really look for paid up policies or limited pay policies, policies with a secondary guarantee, and usually life insurance as a death benefit is not a policy where I have a focus of cash as much as I have a focus as a protected death benefit. So let's move to life insurance as an asset class. The goal here is to grow the cash with the death benefit, not have a death benefit that doesn't really care about the cash value. Cash value here is important. Why? Because we're probably going to use this as a withdrawal to basis then loan strategy in a way that is meeting reasonable expectations of interest charges on the loan portion when we get to the loan, and illustrates a reasonable dividend rate or a reasonable indexing rate for those appropriate policies that says I'm not likely going to blow this contract up before the death of the insured. It's very critical that we understand that if we draw down on those policies too quickly and we cause one of those policies to go bankrupt before the insured or the owner of the insured dies or passes away, we risk a huge trigger of a big taxable event in the event we've taken more dollars out than we paid in basis. And so we got to be careful that we understand what reasonable rates of return and assumptions to make in these illustrations. And then it's really about being able to take those out. Now, it's my perception that life insurance as an asset class is more generally used in what I call the third trifecta, or the last half of retirement. It's really not utilized in the front end of retirement. We need a period of time to let those cash values percolate and mature in order to create a reasonable amount of distribution that we can take in a withdrawal to basis and loan strategy. Life insurance types that work really good for these types of uses are participating whole life. Index life, universal life is not really the favored version. That universal life, in my opinion, is more likely going to be applicable with a secondary guarantee for life insurance as a death benefit. Not to say you couldn't use universal life, it's just that it probably would be not as favored as participating whole life or index life. No, income is always projected and not guaranteed. So when we are projecting life insurance as an asset class and we're projecting some retirement income, understand there's at least 12 moving parts. And when we project this income as part of the retirement plan, not one nickel of this cash flow is guaranteed. It's 100% projected, and we cannot frame this as guaranteed lifetime income or secure lifetime income as we would with an income guarantee of an annuity contract. So be sure that you, from a compliance standpoint, are not framing these up inappropriately. All right. Now, this is just a quick example of pension max funding. This is an example of Sam and Susie, where we're utilizing a single life versus a joint life option with purchase of life insurance. The difference between the single life and the joint life here, in this case, as you can see in the grid, if we take a single life, it's $2,000. If we take a joint and reduce 50% survivor, you can see the annual reduction in benefits here, $3,600. The difference between those two, actually, there's a typo here. Yeah, I guess it is right. It's $300. The difference between the life only and the joint and survivor 50% or the full survivor benefit it gives a $300 difference. Now that $300 or whatever that difference is in the situation that you may be considering simply can be used after tax to fund a life insurance policy. Now, when we look at this particular scenario, I'm going to skip this slide just to show you something. I think this is almost redundant of the slides we've already talked about. So I'm going to skip to see if I can get to the next slide here, get past the animations. So this is the way we find the really efficient ways in which to do a pension max, and when in fact, if it is applicable. Once we understand what the differences are between the single life pension and the pension option we were considering, it used to be that we would just buy some permanent life insurance policy for that death benefit amount and call it a day. Well, what we found a few years ago is if we actually let's pretend for a minute we have a client that's going to probably live 30 years into retirement, and so in this case we'd get a band of 10-year term for a portion of the death benefit, and we would get a band of 20-year term for another portion of the benefit, And then whatever the present value would be necessary based on when they died, you'll see those little square dots that are kind of going down. What we've done is every year along the way, we've priced for that surviving spouse what the immediate SPIA rates would be and what the present value would be to replace that income, whether it was a joint life 100% or joint life 50%. And if we could, at the end of 10 years, we don't need as much death benefit because we made it past that point, and our SPIA rates at an older age are less. And then 20 years after that, and I said 30 years, it's really 10 years we have a segment going away, 20 years we have a segment going away for it. So this is a 20-year period of time. The remainder of the period, that's the permanent life insurance that we buy. And because SPIA rates as we get older tend to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper by dollar amounts that we need, this tends to be as a ladder of life insurance, both using term, having a disappearing of some term insurance in 10 years, and then at 20 years, another portion of it disappear, and so is the premium disappearing. We can afford to fund pension max using a ladder of insurance as demonstrated in this slide more often than we could if we're just trying to buy one permanent policy to last for the entire duration. So this is just a different way of kind of stretching that life insurance premium for the difference between a single life pension or a joint life pension, and we wanted to share that with you today. So the last idea I want to talk about is recapturing this basis for life insurance. So let's pretend you have any life insurance policy. It doesn't matter what type it is. It could be whole life, universal life, variable life, and I want to mention term. Why is term on here? Because term, there are some old policies that had dividends and paid up additions and accums. For those, only those types of policies that had cash value, these are the policies that could actually be 1035 exchanged from life to life or life to annuity. And so if you have a life insurance policy with a $300,000 premium basis that would be reported to the IRS and a $10,000 cash surrender value because it's one of those current interest rate UL contracts bought in the 80s or 90s that now is cost of insurance went up, interest rates went down, it's going to blow up. Remember that that basis is still applicable to that policy even if the cash value is only $10,000. So I want to show you a couple of things. We can 1035 this to a number of different annuity types of products, and based on those products, we can do a lot of different things. So let's just look at the first scenario. So how to recover cost basis of a life insurance policy. Any policy that we have, in this case, we're assuming a basis of $100,000. We're assuming a surrender value of $25,000. In this particular situation, if I 1035 this, say, to a no-load annuity contract, so I'm 1035 exchanging the $25,000 of the cash value and also the $100,000 of basis comes over, and eventually that $100,000 of basis grows back up. I can grow that value inside that annuity back to $100,000, surrender it, no tax. So it's a way for me to recapture the taxes that I paid on that life insurance premium and not simply cash surrender the policy and lose the basis. That's certainly a very simple item. Is just grow the money back up, 1035 exchange it, get the basis of the 100 back into the new annuity contract and just grow it up. That's certainly one. What if we combine 1035 exchanges to wash out gains? So here's an example. So I got that same $100,000 policy with 100,000 basis, $25,000 of surrender charge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that policy. In this case, I'm going to buy it. I have a deferred annuity. So I have a deferred annuity in addition to life insurance policy. And this policy has a $25,000 basis in the annuity, and that annuity's grown up to $100,000. So the life insurance has a $75,000 loss. The annuity has a $75,000 gain. If I 1035 exchange those together in the same annuity contract, and of course, I have to wait on an annuity at 1035 exchange at least 180 days under new regulations that took place a few years ago, I think 2008. Used to be I had to wait a year. Now I have to wait 180 days. I can surrender that annuity, assuming it's a no load. I'll have no surrender charges. If I have surrender charges, I have to be cognitive of those surrender periods. But I can surrender the annuity now without any tax whatsoever. So it allows me to recover that basis by taking a policy or an annuity contract that had a lot of gains and doing a washout with mutual 1035 exchanges. And then finally, and there's about 25 different strategies that we've developed on this, and I'm showing you the three simplest for the time we had on the call today. So this is a very interesting one. Again, I have what if I have a variable annuity or life insurance policy? This could be annuity or life insurance. So let's say I put $100,000 in the contract. And over a period of time, I've lost money, or maybe I put $100,000 of basis in the life policy and it's only worth 50. If I 1035 that basis, which is $100,000 into the D or SPIA, and I'm adding additional, well, in this case, I'm just simply putting 50,000 in there with a $100,000 basis. We went out and we got quotes. And what we found was if I did a 10-year delay deferred income annuity for a 60-year-old female with a 10-year delay turned on at 70, the payments would have been $397.05. That's a yearly amount of roughly $4,700. And the 100% exclusion ratio would apply 90 for 91 of their years. So all the way to age 91, they would have 100% exclusion ratio. If it were a SPIA, it would provide, where it was immediate, not a 10-year delay, it would generate $211 monthly income, or $25.33, and it would create a 100% exclusion ratio to 99.5 years of age. So over the period of time, they're recovering that basis in that old variable life policy that had a loss, or in that life insurance policy that was no longer going to be retained. And so don't forget about the life insurance basis recovery strategies. There's a whole lot more that we teach in our advanced training course called Thrive University. We do have one more course left this year. A lot of the RACP concepts are also incorporated into that. We're having it at Newport Beach on October the 23rd and 24th. You can check it out at Thrive, www.thriveulive.com, and also you can check out our software there as well, retirementnextgen.com. Jamie, thank you. Turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Curtis. That was excellent. I know my audio has been a little choppy, so I'll try to keep this as simple as possible here. Got a couple more slides in the last CFP CE code coming up. Just kind of recapping a little bit of what Curtis and Tom gave us earlier, right? It's using life insurance as a asset class, using it as an income source in retirement, protecting the family, protecting a pension, estate planning aspects, protecting that human capital. We saw a lot of tax benefits there from Curtis on effectively protecting basis and 1035 exchange to create more efficient retirement income planning. We saw cash value withdrawal options there. So a lot of really interesting thoughts, as I said, just kind of a recap here. Hopefully we will get a couple questions, but I want to hit the couple other pieces first. The one thing is for our next webcast, and we'll actually have a link coming into the chat box here if you want to register for the next webcast, which will be October 23rd, 2018, so next month at 1 p.m. Eastern. And this is going to be on housing, wealth, and retirement planning with Shelley Giordano, the chair of the Funding Longevity Task Force, and Dr. Barbara Stuckey, who now is running consulting, but very involved with the Society of Actuaries and other organizations. I do want to, Curtis, I'm going to, I think we have time for a couple questions here. One person asked here about why do you withdraw basis before loaning? Should you loan at the beginning to kind of allow the compounding interest on the whole account value as opposed to loan value? So maybe if you just give us a quick, what to consider there, loaning versus kind of withdrawing basis to the audience.
Yeah, so that, again, with the limited time, I didn't want to get into a lot of detail, but actually both strategies could be correct depending on the reason for the cash flow that we're generating from the policy. If we're really early and we're not really into trying to trigger lifetime income where we would withdraw the basis in loan, where we're just taking out some temporary money and plan to put it back, I'd probably do a loan, even if the interest rate was more unfavorable than I would really like. But the reason for that is if I withdraw basis and I want to put that back later on, I really cannot unless it's an index UL or UL contract. If it's a participating whole life, I may be limited not to get that cash back in there. But if it's a loan, I can. Also, if it's a loan and I put money back as a loan payment, I don't pay the premium tax all over again. So for short-term early distributions that I want from the policy that I want to put back, I would take a loan first. But if I were really trying to create lifetime income tax-free, then obviously I don't want to have a loan cost drag on the contract any sooner than I have to. And since the IRS allows me to withdraw basis first, as an order, which is different than most investments, I would do that. And then, of course, when I can no longer take basis tax-free, the only way I can continue to get cash out of that policy tax-free on a long-term basis is to now take it in virtue of loans. And I have to make sure that the assumptions that I'm making don't allow that policy to blow up before I die, or I will have a big taxable event somewhere out there. So hopefully, Jamie, that explains the different methods I might use and what order of basis or loan I may use as well.
Yeah, it's excellent. And actually, I guess, Tom, if you're here with us, you might want to hop in on this one. So someone really just asked kind of what would be your kind of deciding factors between the index life UL, they say, versus just kind of over a regular UL policy? Any guidance on that, and kind of, how you might talk about those, what questions you might ask?
Well, Jamie, I'll take it. It's Tom. I think if you're going to use a universal life policy, I think right now the index life is probably, probably the hottest UL product. I don't know that I'd use a fixed interest UL. You might want to use a variable life. But normally I get asked what's better, whole life or index life. And I say, well, I don't know that anybody can answer that yet. I mean, I do know that over a 30 or 40-year cycle, whole life is a solid contract through ups and downs, high interest rate, low interest rate, good market, bad market. Whole life, in my opinion, is a, proven superior product. Now, index life is the rage right now. It's got, it makes it sound like you get your cake and eat it too. But we haven't been through a full cycle yet. So I'm reserving judgment on it. I think it looks really good. I think a lot of the products are awesome. And I think I'd turn it over to Curtis to get his input on what he's thinking on those products as well.
Yes, thanks, Tom. So, really the index life with the various strategies that exist and being able to buy an option and have no downside losses certainly is a popular design and a popular method, and certainly is an applicable and appropriate way to consider growing cash values for that life insurance as an asset class. You can, also there for many, many years, we had index life with really low deposit requirements to a secondary guarantee. Those have kind of gone away at this point. But for those policies that still have that, it could have been used as life insurance as a death benefit. But when it comes to participating whole life, and by the way, I've been doing participating whole life for 31 years, I'm a huge advocate and a big believer, own a lot of it myself, as I know you do as well, Tom, in our conversations. And I would say that neither of them are right and neither of them are wrong. Participating whole life in terms of some of the guarantees that exist put a lot more of the risk onus on the insurance carrier than on an index life where cost of insurance charges are not defined and could be changed by the carrier, not knowing exactly what the moving parts of the index credit rates are going to be. The onus of the index life is more on the client. Again, we haven't had enough history, but we've back modeled a lot of the different index strategies to project and pontificate what we perceive might be the case, but I don't really think we've had enough history proven by the reality of the duration of these contracts to necessarily define all of the different historic reasons why one policy would be used over another. I just know that both of them are appropriate for life insurance as an asset class.
Well, I think that's excellent. As we're kind of nearing the end here, I guess, Tom and Curtis, any closing thoughts you want to leave people with? And Tom, I'll let you go first, and then over to Curtis, and then we'll get this wrapped up.
Well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you to the American College, and congratulations to George Nichols, the new president. I know him pretty well, and he's an unbelievably great guy, and so I know the American College is in very good stead. I just think life insurance is an underutilized, underappreciated asset that can do so much to protect families, to provide tax-free income in retirement, and to allow people to enjoy their retirement. See, they can spend their money if they just had life insurance go to their kids. They don't have to worry about leaving any money. So I just think if we can get these key concepts, we don't have to get too crazy with life insurance. It's a pretty simple product, pretty simple ideas. And if we can just show people how they can live a better life using life insurance, I think everybody will be better off.
And thank you, Jamie, and the American College as well. When it comes to retirement planning, life insurance is a significant component. And though it's not the only component, it is certainly one of them. We cannot leave it off the shelf. We can't leave it out of our toolbox of products and allocations of money that we actually consider. And for those advisors who are ignoring it, they're certainly creating a significant disservice to the clients they serve. So life insurance is an important component, and it plays together with all the other components that are critically important as well. And so I hope that we've been able to highlight some of those benefits and strategies on this call. Thanks again for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much, Tom and Curtis. Everyone, thank you for joining us here today. Remember, if you want CE to fill out the CE survey, check in and log in for the next webinar next month. And thank you, everyone, for taking your time out of your day to learn a little bit more about life insurance and retirement income planning. And again, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.